Number 8. Deshaun Stewart. On December the 23rd of 2017, Deshaun Stewart, age 24, was scheduled to walk his mail route in Columbus, Ohio. At the time, he was pending dismissal from his job with the U.S. Postal Service. Instead of doing his rounds, he went to see his supervisor, 52-year-old Lance Dempsey, at an office in suburban Dublin. Stewart was reportedly naked when he approached Dempsey in the sorting bay and shot him with a handgun. The postal worker then drove to Ginger Ballard's apartment complex at Boland Place. The 53-year-old woman was believed to have also been involved in Stewart's pending dismissal, particularly with investigating him under suspicions of misconduct. At around 7:15 a.m., police received a call about an attacker with a gun chasing a woman outside the apartment complex. When officers arrived at the scene, they arrested Stewart and recovered a handgun he'd thrown while trying to run away. Ballard's lifeless body was found lying between two vehicles. The ensuing investigation found the woman had died instantly from blunt force trauma to the head after being thrown to the ground. In May 2018, Stewart was indicted on federal charges with 2 counts of murdering an officer of the United States. Investigators determined the attack to have been carried out in retaliation for the pending termination of his employment. Although he could have been put to death, Stewart was found not guilty in September of 2019 after multiple mental health experts determined he'd suffered manic and psychotic episodes at the time of the crimes. Upon being arrested, the postal worker had allegedly told officers that God had told him to kill his supervisors. According to documents, he also spat out 2 pieces of Ballard's jewelry, claiming they were being used to suck out his soul. Number 7. Adrian Jackson. On December the 28th of 2019, postal worker Adrian Jackson, age 30, was delivering mail on Cedardale Street in Houston, Texas, when he was randomly shot by a man driving a black Honda. His attacker, a Caucasian male later described by witnesses as having tattoos on his face, neck, and arms, fled the scene, only to attempt to shoot another man at a nearby gas station minutes later. His gun misfired, so he fled once more and rear-ended a woman's car while making his escape. In the shooting's immediate aftermath, Jackson screamed for help and was taken to a local hospital, where doctors found bullet wounds to his back and lower abdomen. His condition was later pronounced as stable. Jackson's attacker was later tracked by a photo a witness had taken of his car and identified as 24-year-old Matthew Williams. He was charged with aggravated assault against a public servant, aggravated assault with a lethal weapon, burglary of a motor vehicle, breach of a protective order, and attack of a federal employee. Investigators also found that Williams was a member of the Aryan Brotherhood gang, but it was unclear how his criminal connections had factored into his rampage. It was also reported that he was under the influence of drugs at the time of the shooting. Number 6. Jason Schaefer. 33-year-old Jason Schaefer was shot dead on October the 13th of 2021 while delivering mail on his daily route in Longmont, Colorado. Witnesses reported to have seen a person wearing a dark hoodie and a blue mask fleeing the area. The emergency services were called and Schaefer was pronounced dead. When the postmaster arrived at the scene, he reportedly asked if the shooter could have been Schaefer's former partner and mother of his children, 26-year-old Devon Schreiner. The two had worked together at the post office, but Schreiner's employment had been terminated roughly 2 weeks before the shooting after an unspecified incident between them. They'd also been involved in a custody battle for their 2 children, and investigators found that Schreiner had threatened Schaefer in the past. On the night of the attack, police arrested a 26-year-old woman on suspicion of first-degree murder. Schreiner appeared in court on October the 19th, where it was revealed she'd been plotting the shooting along with 34-year-old federal prison employee Andrew Ritchie. At first, the woman denied the existence of a romantic relationship with Ritchie, but later admitted they'd been seeing each other in light of telling evidence that had surfaced in the trial. Ritchie was charged as an accomplice and told detectives he'd tried to convince Schreiner on multiple occasions to not go through with the plan. However, on the morning of October the 13th, as he was dropping her off at her new job, Schreiner allegedly told him that today is the day. GPS from both of their phones and cameras from houses in the vicinity showed that Ritchie's vehicle had followed Schaefer's along his delivery route. Police also uncovered a 1911 handgun in the console of the man's car. The alleged killer's trials are currently ongoing and each face lengthy prison sentences if convicted. Number 5. Robert Rochester. Robert Rochester was doing his usual rounds on his Stanton, Delaware collection route on October the 11th of 2012. when a German Shepherd escaped its owner's property, ran towards him and started biting into his body. The dog mauled Rochester's legs, arm and stomach before being dragged off him by a passing motorist. She then pulled the postal worker into her vehicle and took him to the hospital. The German Shepherd went on to attack a smaller canine as it was being walked by its owner, and the police were consequently called. When a trooper arrived at the scene, he fired his service weapon 3 times, injuring the aggressive animal. The German Shepherd survived and was placed in quarantine at a veterinary clinic to determine if it had rabies or another condition to explain its violent behavior. 55-year-old Rochester was kept overnight in the hospital for treatment and released the following day. A week later, on October the 18th, he went into cardiac arrest at his home in Newcastle and was rushed to the hospital. Doctors were unable to save him, and he was declared dead at around 2 a.m. Rochester's death certificate listed his cause of death as pulmonary embolism and temporary disability due to work injuries stemming from the dog attack. Number 4. Graham Bennett. On July the 15th of 2013, due to a shortage in staff at the Royal Mail in Lincoln, England, 47-year-old Graham Bennett had to go out and make postal deliveries, despite his job being in the sorting office. His managers assigned him to delivery that day as one of his colleagues was having some time off. Temperatures in the area had risen to 81 degrees Fahrenheit while Bennett was out working the route. He was about halfway through his deliveries when he stopped to rest in the shade, next to a block of flats. Residents subsequently found him keeled over in a small patch of shade by the entrance and tried to resuscitate him while calling the emergency services. Paramedics took Bennett to the hospital, but he died a short time later from a reported heat-related health issue. Number 3. Graham Ellison. In September 2019, Royal Mail postman Graham Ellison, aged 59, was driving his Peugeot van in Cumbria, England, along the A683. He was going to collect mail from a postbox when he encountered a horse and carriage. He slowly overtook it, but instead of going back in his lane, Ellison remained on the wrong lane as he approached a blind bend, with the intention of pulling into a lay-by. 27-year-old Oliver Evans, a police officer off duty, was traveling on his motorbike and came around the blind bend in the direct path of Ellison's van. He tried braking, but was unable to avoid the collision. Evans was thrown off his bike and suffered severe head and spine injuries. Several passers-by and even Ellison himself made efforts to save him, but paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. In court, the former postman admitted to causing death by careless driving and was jailed for 32 weeks in June 2021. He was to be banned from driving for 2 years upon his release. Today's topic was requested by Elisha Garcia, Matt Clemens, Spandaki Wubu, and Suzanne Schneider. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Grant Gallagher. In April of 2006, 41-year-old Oregon letter carrier Grant Gallagher heard about his supervisor's decision to add extra mail to his delivery route. He had been working on a new mail route for 3 weeks, and he'd reportedly felt pressured by a week-long scrutiny of his work to which his supervisors had subjected him. On April the 4th, he was allegedly ahead of schedule when his supervisor assigned him more mail to deliver. Enraged by this development, he went to the Baker City Post looking for the postmaster, Michael McGuire. On his way, he encountered his supervisor, 49-year-old Lori Hayes Cotter, in the parking lot. He repeatedly ran her over with his postal vehicle, seriously injuring her. Gallagher then got out of his car holding a .357 Magnum revolver and entered the building looking for McGuire. When he couldn't find him, he returned to the parking lot and shot Hayes Cotter several times, killing her. In a visible frenzy, he also fired rounds at her car, according to a witness, and then threw his gun towards a river nearby. A police officer arrived immediately after the shooting, and Gallagher walked up to him and surrendered. He was arrested and charged with the intentional murder of Lori Hayes Cotter and the attempted aggravated murder of the postmaster. In July of 2006, Gallagher pleaded guilty and was sentenced to at least 35 years in prison. Number 1. Louis Vignone. On October the 7th of 2021, while on his rounds along Columbia Avenue in Davenport, Iowa, 58-year-old Louis Vignone was shot dead. The gunman was his former neighbor, 53-year-old Eric Kortz, who later confessed to the killing. He'd driven up and stopped his car in front of Vignone's USPS vehicle to block him. Kortz then got out of his car and proceeded to shoot at the postal worker several times. After Vignone had collapsed to the ground, Kortz dropped the murder weapon, entered his vehicle, and drove to the Carnegie Borough Police Department, where he surrendered to the authorities. A contractor working on a house nearby had heard the gunshots and rushed to help Vignone, but to no avail. He was declared dead at the scene after sustaining multiple gun wounds, including some to his head. In his confession, Courts told the police he and Vignone used to be neighbors in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and that he believed the postman had poisoned him and his family with cyanide when they lived close to each other. Another neighbor of theirs stated Courts had told them something big was going to happen and that the whole city would hear about it. After appearing in court virtually, Courts faced charges of killing a federal employee, for which he could ultimately be given the death penalty. Thanks for watching. Would you rather never be able to order anything online again, or never be able to shop for anything in person again? Let us know in the comments section below.